is going on, guys? Matt Downs with Daily Grind Fantasy Sports to help give you the edge for this MMA 14 fight slate on DraftKings. Cannot wait to break it down. If you guys are brand new to this channel, we provide both free and paid content for all daily fantasy sports across all sports. If you could please show your support by hitting that subscribe button, notification bell, and of course smashing that like button for all of our future MMA content. If you would like to know more about becoming a better DFS player and taking down that big GBP, head over to www.patreon.com/DGFantasy for more information. On Patreon, we give advanced cheat sheets for all DFS sports on DraftKings. These cheat sheets include updated projections, ownership, and our overall favorite plays from slate to slate. We take it a step further by teaching you how to play fantasy sports like a shark, by showing you where the best leverage spots are to put you in the best spots to take down tourneys. Also included is our private Discord chat where you get to talk over the slate with everyone, including our coaches, to help build your lineups. And now let's go ahead and dive right into this MMA 14 fight slate, back-to-back 14 fight slates, Kevin. And Kevin, you ready to break down last weekend's card?
Yeah, I'm just looking at Pokemon cards, one sec.
Okay, problem. You got your fun fact, by the way?
No.
No, you don't.
I'm gonna queue it up. I'll wait till you...
Late update.
Something, yeah, I know. It's just, Pokemon,
So MMA Kev, diehard MMA fan is looking at Pokemon right now.
Well, it's MMA/Pokemon Kev.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll go through the fights. All right, I might just change my name. UFC Fight Night, Rosenstruck versus Sakai, Matt. It was a good night for us for the most part. I played a lot of cash games and I actually just missed on my cash lines. It was very frustrating. I think I was 5 points from cashing, which is annoying, but our Patreons did well. We had one person win $2,000, which was awesome.
I did see that. Oh, by the way, that member just came back from boot camp, actually. So.
Yeah, military, I was gonna say, yeah. So that's good for him. And
thank you for your service if you're watching it.
And 2K,
absolutely.
Big payday. Welcome home. So yeah, that was great to see. Going through the fights, first fight I said was a great target. Had more Levitt and cash, but did green light Pueles, and that was pretty good for us. Woodson versus Alal, I said was going to be a slow affair, and it was. Fioret was a core pick for me, Matt, with the opponent change, and I mean the ownership was ridiculous in cash games. It was like 88%.
Yeah, it was. Yep.
But she got the second round finish, scored great, so that was good. I said I liked Patrick more than Mason Jones for their price tags. I know I caught a lot of flack for that. Mason Jones was definitely winning, but I can't say, it didn't work out that way. It ended in no contest. So that panned out of Mason Jones not hitting his price point. Camuela Kirk beating Amir Khani was something that I was a little surprised to see, but we did talk about being a possibility, especially with their styles. I hated the Trinaldo and Muslim fight because the pace that Trinaldo turns fights into. Trinaldo just is a slow old fighter. I told you I can't wait till he retires, and it was a super low octane affair. Latifi was one of my top punts at 7,300, Matt, and he got the job done. And it's tough to not hit your price point at 7,300, but he found a way. He did not score great. What did Latifi score? It's like disgusting.
Latifi scored. You're just reading off the names. I'm like trying to keep up with you, but I can barely pronounce names to begin with. So 64.14 points is what he scored.
That's disgusting. That's gross. But at least he did win his punt. Love to see it. I said Montana was live because of her wrestling, and she did score 2 takedowns, but finished the fight more importantly. I said Todorovic and Rodriguez was very live, and it didn't quite live up to the hype, honestly. That one was a little slower than I thought. I said Pons and Baeza was a great target, was a love lister, and Pons cleared 106 strikes, which was great. I said I thought Roman should win, but not score super well, and he did just that. I don't think he scored well, at least. How did Roman Dolidze score?
Hold on.
Dolidze, D-O-L.
Sorry, I'm trying to. No, that's not the. Why can't I find this name?
Because you're trash.
I honestly can't find it. What is happening?
Yeah, I know you're trash. I'm not. That doesn't surprise me. That's what trash does.
Hold on. I found it. Scored well. 85.51.
What is it?
85.51. Didn't make the optimal.
That's kind of what I figured. So he won, didn't score well. I love Tybur and Harris, and Tybur got the first round KO, which was nice. And the main event was a finish as expected, and went as I thought, though. Had a slight favorite towards Sakai with their last performances, and Rosenstruck got the job done. So that was, that was nice. Rosenstruck looked good. Love that fight. I did have a little more Sakai, but whatever. This next UFC 263 card is a doozy, Matt. We got a lot of good fights on it. The pricing is so friggin' high at the top, so do be ready for that. You'll see the top 5.
I know you're not going to be a fan already.
Yeah, I don't like some of the high pricing, but we're gonna have to make some choices here because you got to assume one makes the
Right.
optimal. But yeah, let's get into it, man. We start with big boy banger, and none of these guys really look like fighters, to be honest. But I mean, it's we know, man. It's not about looks. It's. I was at the gym today actually, and I saw. It's funny. You got every gym idiot with their chest puffed out and this and another thing. You know, every guy, puffing their chest because
Mhm.
they did bench that day. And it's funny. I saw this little guy in the corner, and I noticed he had an IBJJF shirt on, and I was like, "Hey, where do you train, man?" Like talking to him and all stuff, and he was like, and I noticed he's got the fatty cauliflower ears, and I was like. I learned, and he's like, I figured out that he's actually a very high level black belt. He was a coach at this jiu-jitsu place near me, and I was like, it's just funny because he's like sitting in the corner all quiet, and then he had got the gym idiot next to him like puffing his chest out, grunting, and I'm like, dude, that dude would put you down like a bad dog in 5 seconds.
Not even
It's
the
just
same
funny.
weight class. You would just straight
No,
up.
dude, probably 145 pounds. And I was like, dude, I think I've dust everyone in this gym except that guy. And he's 145 freaking pounds. I was like,
Right.
it's funny. There's a lot of sharks in the water out there, people. Be careful.
Right.
that don't look like it. It's yeah. So it's just funny because these two heavyweights don't look like necessarily, heavyweight UFC elite athletes, but they're some chubby boys, but they're good at fighting. And they have power for the most part. It's tough. It's tough though. They don't get the finishes you'd want to see at heavyweight. Um, it needs to be addressed that these guys have 6 combined UFC wins, and I think one of those has ended in a finish, which is not
Mm,
really great for heavyweight. That's why we're looking at a plus 110 finish
right.
chance. You know what I mean? I'm a little more inclined to lean on the favorite here for a simple reason that Collier has been finished in 4 of his 5 losses, and Felipe has never been finished. So if we are looking at finishes, it's a 14 fight slate, Matt. We're going to need finishes. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Especially from a heavyweight fight, you really need finishes because they're bigger dudes, they're slower dudes, and they don't really carry that crazy pace. Granted, everything that throws a significant strike in a lunchbox, it's if you don't get a knockout, a lot of times you're not going to be scoring too well. I don't know. It's tough. It's a large slate, so you don't want to go crazy off the rip, but I will mark both green just because it is a heavyweight fight. And Felipe has a much better chance to finish, but Collier's cheaper, and he actually scores okay in decisions, so he could clear that quite easily.
Right.
Contrary to what I just said, Collier does score okay in decisions. I don't know who wins this one. Both are pretty, they're okay. They're middle of the road heavyweights. I see this as somewhat of a toss up.
Okay, and it all makes sense. The only thing I'd say that goes into their favor here for scoring well is their price tag, Kevin. I mean, $8,700.75 is just insanely
Great
low.
point.
Just I'm looking at it and just seeing the heavyweight next to their names. I'm just like, okay, that has to be green, right? The ownership is relatively low. Before I give the ownership on this fight, we always give a benchmark. The top 6 right after that usually tells us what percentage is going to be GPP, what is worthy of cash, vice versa. Right now, the benchmark is at 31.8% ownership, so it's very skewed towards some of these other fighters, Kevin, as you would expect, because we haven't gotten to the main event yet. But once we do, very high-level name there. Felipe is at 18.9% ownership, and Collier is at 11.2%. So very, very low combined ownership here in this first fight.
That could very easily be a knockout. So.
Right.
But
So I would probably overexpose if you're playing
Uh,
multiple lineups, but if you're playing smaller GBPs, probably I don't know if I'd be taking stabs at these guys.
That's kind of what I thought you were going to say. Like, take a couple pieces just off leverage alone.
Right. All right. Moving on.
Moving on, we got Fares versus Luigi. Fares is 1-1 in the UFC as the favorite, and I will tell you, his win over Jamie Malarkey almost put me to sleep in a very, very low octane decision. It's tough because he is a good fighter and only had one fight go the distance in his 10 wins before the UFC. So I think he's live due to that pricing and his finish chance. I mean, it's a minus 130, and he's an $8,300 fighter. So I don't like his pace as a whole, but I will mark him green due to his opponent as well. He takes on Luigi Vendramini, who, like Fares, is a very well-rounded guy, but has never had a fight go the distance. I mean, this kid hits super hard, and I think this fight has a decent finish chance for that reason alone. This fight could be a sneaky optimal, Matt. You talk about great pricing. This one's even better with a better finish chance than the one we just talked about. I'm curious to hear the ownership here, Matt. I hope it's lower than the one you just said, because then it would really.
It is. Well, it's not lower. I'd say it's about the same exact ownership combined wise. I mean, 16.2% on Luigi and on Ziam, 15.8%. So they're virtually the same exact ownership, but the main takeaway from this is that they're both very low.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, maybe this is a place to overexpose, especially if you're doing multiple lineups.
Absolutely.
Could sneak up on you a little bit.
And we know people do not like taking the toss-ups in terms of, smaller GPPs in general, because If you get that wrong, you're done.
Yeah, no, seriously. And that's the thing. Like, if you exactly, because, and that's why it's deterring people, but that's what we want to do.
Right.
We want people to get deterred, take some chances. Because again, in a sport like MMA, you get to the top of, the lineup. If it's a chalky finish, I mean, you could be tying with friggin', depending on the contest, you could be tying all day and you're not going to be, what's the point? It's almost like the risk has to be worth the reward, man.
Yeah.
And so this is a lesson in just DFS, and especially MMA DFS.
Here's Kevin talking DFS, just taking my job away. That's fine. Go ahead.
DFS, no, it's cool. Well, this is the one sport I feel I have the authority to at least talk the DFS side of it. And I'll tell you this, Matt, I figured this out through, the couple of years we've been doing this. The risk has to be worth the reward, because if you play contest, say every slate, say there's a slate every weekend, you play every single weekend, okay?
Mm-hmm.
If you do, you're going to lose. If you're doing GPPs and tourneys, you're going to lose more than you win, okay? That's DFS.
That's
you're
fact.
expected to lose more than when you win, but when you win, it's supposed to counteract that by so much that you're extremely profitable. You
Absolutely.
know what I mean? Yes, you lose 100, lose 100, lose 100, win 1,600.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you're down 500, you're up 1,600 net profit.
You have to have very thick skin when playing DFS and 100%. Play it consistently.
Yes, consistently, and you have to be prepared to take some L's on a week-to-week basis, and don't change it up. When you lose 100 this week, don't drop 200 next week to you know what I mean? Double up. Be consistent.
You know what, Kevin? You just need to make your own video right now, because that is spot on. That's everything I would say. Yep, absolutely.
I'm glad. I appreciate it. You're the master. But this one thing I figured out. But here's the thing with MMA. If you do all this and you pick a chalky lineup in a small contest and you finally hit for first, but you tie with 40 other people, you know what I mean? That's exactly. Not going to be,
especially in double ups.
First, yeah, or double ups too. But I'm saying, like, say you're double ups, you can be a little more consistently cashing. You know what I mean? I'm saying, like, say L, and then you finally finish top 5 in a giant contest, or you take down a contest but you tie. Maybe only come out $400 profitable, where if you did a bigger contest and took some chances and say that optimal, I mean, again, you're not going to change the optimal. If chalky's the optimal, you obviously want the optimal, but take some chances. So one time you hit first, now you're on an island. You know what I mean? And that's why we see people winning $2,000. We saw that person win 45 grand that one time. We see people win 15 grand. You know what I mean? Like because they're on an island. That's why.
Exactly. And to speak to your point, the chalk does not hit more often than not. It's usually the contrarian lineups that are hitting. So if you're just playing the chalk every time, you won't hit a majority of the time. And when you do, you're splitting money. So
100%. And I'm going to take one more thing. I'm just going to say with Matt, because this is more important than anything I'll talk about with these individual fights. This is just, it's teaching a man how to fish. You know what I mean? Instead of just giving him a fish, like I'm telling you guys right now, this is one thing I figured out too. Odds makers have to make a line. Okay. And the problem with this isn't football. When you see a running back at 10K in football, you're like, that kid's going to smoke. That kid's going to do great. Okay. I can't tell you. Now, in MMA, if you see someone who's 9,600, they're probably going to win most of the time. Okay. That usually happens. But if you see I can't tell you. I'd say every single slate, there's a 9K, almost, not every single time, obviously, but I'd say more times than not, almost every single slate, a 9K fighter goes down. Like, a 9K fighter is coming in as a minus 260 or whatever they are usually, and you're like, that person is expected to definitely win. You know what I mean? Every slate, one of those guys gets knocked out. It's fighting. There's so many variables. The best guy doesn't always win, and sometimes it's hard to decide who the best guy is. It's
just, again, to speak to your point here, the highest win percentage chance that we have on this card specifically. It's insane. It's only 85%. You're telling me there's still a 15% chance that the highest favorite could lose this fight. It just goes to show you. You're absolutely right, Kevin.
And that's it.
They have to make a line.
They have to make a line, and this is the highest favorite we've seen on a card in probably a month or two.
And it's only 85.
It's only 85%. So
I've seen basketball games with higher percentage chances to win than that, and I can't. Basketball's so volatile. So.
Exactly. So exactly. I'm glad you're on the same page with me, Matt, and you agree, because that's just how I feel. Like, it's just there's so many variables. It's like, and that's why I try to look less at pricing. That's why we have 47K lineups are the takedown or the optimal.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Another good point.
You'll say, what's the optimal salary? You'll be like, you'll get this, Kevin. It's 47,600. Like, someone left, whatever X amount of $2,400 on the table. Like, that's crazy. So,
yeah.
But Is what it is. So yeah, let's get through these. So moving on, we got Chase Hooper versus Steven Peterson. Chase Hooper broke my heart again, or against rather Alex Caceres, but he got a little love back, when he submitted Peter Barrett in his fight. That doesn't mean a ton to me, man. I told you Peter Barrett's a local guy from Mass. I've seen him fight a lot. Nice kid. Don't really know him, but I don't think he was. I've seen him fight enough times in person where I don't think he's a really great UFC caliber fighter. No offense to Peter, but it's just what I test. So Hooper beating him doesn't really take me tell me a ton, but I just know that he didn't look great against Caceres. I was very disappointed in that fight. Hooper now takes on Steven Peterson and finds himself as the slight underdog. I will say Hooper has amazing grappling when he can get there. You guys know I say this all the time. I'm a wrestling coach. I'm biased. But my biggest beef with jiu-jitsu guys is a lot of them are so, and there's a shift. There's a paradigm shift here. People are starting to figure it out, but a lot of them are so damn good on the ground. They're wizards on the ground, but they don't know how to take it there. You know what I mean? And the problem is you got a jiu-jitsu guy going up against another jiu-jitsu guy in practice and training. And again, neither has great takedown offense or defense, so their sauce works. And then you go up against a guy who has decent takedown defense, and that little trip you try, that little jiu-jitsu whatever body lock trip, it's not landing. You know what I mean? So and I think Chase Hooper's one of those guys. I mean, that's why he's looking to take the back standing and all this stuff. His takedowns are not great. His wrestling's not great. I know he's been working with Ben Askren. He went out in Wisconsin, worked on his wrestling, because it's funny because everyone thought he was Ben Askren's son, and it just became a meme. But then he was like, okay, I'm actually going to train wrestling with Ben Askren. So because he looks like Ben Askren. He's goofy as shit looking. But I think his wrestling got a little better. It's tough. I mean, Hooper's one of those guys. I mean, he's 0 for 8 in his last, or 0 for in his last 8 takedown attempts, Matt. That's not good for a guy I want to get to the ground. Peterson has a 75% takedown defense, so that might help a little bit. That's not great. Peterson has also never been submitted, though. So, granted, I think Chase Hooper could do it. I think it's a live fight, Matt. I think both can be green again. I'm a little more towards Hooper being 600 less on a pretty near even line. And other than that, I think it just depends which Chase Hooper we get. Peterson isn't amazing, but he's a 50-50 guy. And I don't think Hooper is necessarily like Hooper gained. There's people in the sport, Matt, who gain a lot of clout for different reasons. Like Hooper gained a lot of clout coming in because he was young. He didn't look like a fighter. He looked like a, nerdy accountant and just did all the, was sleeping people and all this stuff. But I think that overhype made people think that Chase Hooper is an elite fighter. And he's not. Right. He's a middle of the road guy too. So,
and it looks like the public agrees with you here. The ownership's actually higher on the guy that's cheaper. As we know, we've seen this many, many times on the near even line. Again, they're giving Hooper a 45% chance to win, Peterson 55%, so pretty much call it a toss-up. 18% ownership on Peterson, on Hooper 26.5%, still not in cash range. People are probably not going to touch this fight in smaller GBPs in cash.
I think I think, Matt, that Chase Hooper, like I said, it's that false elite status that people are like, oh, I know that name. You know what I mean? But why do you know the name? It's because he looks like Bob Ross. That's why you know that. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily because I think Chase Hooper's very good. He's young, and he is super young. He's still getting He's, I think, like, what is he, 9 years old or something? He's still getting better, but he's not there yet. So we'll see, though. This will be a good test. I'm curious. I like Chase Hooper. He seems like a good kid. I hope this is a good, good showing for him. I like up and comers. I don't like, and this is not, I'm sorry, but who likes journeyman? You know what I mean? No offense to Steven Peterson, but like in any sport, you know what I mean? No one likes the Justin Forsett of the world. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you want new, hot, up and coming, talent. It's fun to track new guys. No one wants a 50-50 guy. I'm sorry, it's just not as interesting. But anyway, moving on. What's the line, Matt? What's the cash line where you're looking for in terms of ownership?
Oh, it's 28.5.
28. Okay.
Yep.
I think you said that. I think
it's slightly lower here. He's about 2 places lower than 28.5. So he's creeping up there. But again, it's just a near even line. Nobody's going to be like, hey, I'm definitely taking Hooper in this match.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Moving on, we have Matt Frivola versus Terrence McKinney. Frivola got a late opponent change. I believe it was supposed to be Frank Camacho. He's now 8,900. I'm just going to check something real quick, Matt, because I don't believe
they changed the price tag.
Why? What's the price tag?
No, you said you made it sound like he was getting a price tag change or something. No, he's $8,900 still.
Okay, I was more curious.
I was going to say it's never happened. Oh, they did. 6,900.
So I digress. So he's 6,900. Okay, and obviously those numbers don't make sense. That's why, because Matt Frivola is still holding his old price tag. Right. 6,900 should be about 9,300, I think, on the usual scaling. Right. Let's see. Izzy's 9,300. Marvin Vettori's 6,900. So yeah. Right. So you are getting a $400 value pick. With
I see what you're saying. Okay, I was so lost there for a second. I was like, "What are you talking about? He's still $8,900. He's not 93."
I just want to make sure. So that's why you're getting a value pick because of that. And I'll say,
Right.
you're getting a minus 275 for 8,900. That's another good value factor there. For reference, Fig in the co-main is minus 230 at 9,100. So you're getting someone who's minus 45 better favorite for $200 cheaper than that.
Right.
Good bang for your buck. Matt traditionally uses his wrestling and grappling as his best weapons, but
I do. Yeah.
last fight, Matt, you do. I was going to say Matt. I was like, should I tell people about your secret ground game, Matt?
No, you shouldn't. We'll cut this part out.
Cut this part out. But yeah, he usually uses that wrestling grappling. It's his best weapon. But I'll be honest. Sorry to say, Matt, you got fucked up last fight in that field by Armin Tsarukian.
I also went down the weight class down to lightweight. So this is yeah,
you were sucked out. I know.
Yeah.
It was a hard cut for you.
Yeah.
But he got taken down 10 times and got beat on. So as a wrestler and grappler, getting taken down 10 times and getting the crap beat out of you is not quite what I want to see heading into, this fight where I'm supposed to be like, oh, well, he's a super heavy favorite. I'm supposed to have confidence. This is tough, man. I'm assuming Frevola is going to carry a shit ton of ownership just because of that pullout factor.
It's not as high as you would think, but it's still in cash range, 31.8% ownership. So it's in the top 6.
I'm gonna put him in cash. I'm gonna leave him there, Matt, because I don't think he's a great scorer. I don't think he's gonna score great. You could take some stabs in GPP, and obviously, if he's owned very heavily and you don't have a piece of
leverage,
and I was gonna say it's a leverage, but it's so funny. You're like, I'm such a FOMO guy. You're such a you want to sit in the corner. You're the weird emo kid. I'm such a FOMO kid. I'm like, what are the jocks doing? Like, I want to friggin' what's cool right now?
I love that reference. Yeah,
I like you're the weird. You're Steven Glansberg. You're eating lunch alone.
It's so funny that you say that because I've thought about that. I actually thought about this recently. When I was growing up, I never wanted to do what normal people were doing. Like I always wanted to do it. Wait, what'd you say?
Nothing.
You cursed me? Okay. No, I never wanted to do the technique, or from a technique perspective. Never wanted to do the things that other people were doing. If I saw people lifting weights, I never wanted to lift weights. I wanted to go practice my shot. Or if they were practicing a shot, I wanted to go lift weights. Like that's what I wanted to do. I never wanted to do what the public was doing because I always felt like I was right, and that's because I'm stubborn. But anyway, when in terms of DFS, I'm in the perfect field because that's all you want to do is be different.
That's why I think it's funny. Like, and if it's so you're so different minded, I'm on the mindset like it's good. That's funny. Why we're yin and yang here, so we get both sides of the coin, good cop, bad cop. Because I'm like, oh, what if Frevola does good and everyone has him? That's where I'm like, right. But you need to think both ways because this is a fight. You probably want to grab something like 40% of Frevola in your GPPs, even just so you're not left out, but have some good leverage if you don't. Maybe 40% is high, but you know what I'm saying? Like you do want to.
I know exactly what you're saying.
You're going to be dead in the water in every lineup if you don't have him, and he does super well, obviously, because a lot of people should still have him in GPPs just because it's a great, leverage piece. You're getting a minus 275 for less than 9K. But I'm not looking at McKinney. I just
8.5% in case you were wondering whatsoever.
Leverage. Yeah, I was going to say if you want to get weird, take McKinney. I know Matt's
price tag's low, so that's all I'll say.
It is, and I don't think Frevola is a world beater, so. Take some stabs if you want, but
we don't have any stats on McKinney. Do you know anything about him?
To be honest, I didn't do as much research because he didn't have a price tag. I can give you a quick synopsis.
Well, we can save that for the Patreons if you want to take that route too.
Yeah, that's true too. Let's do that so I can get a better, more well-read,
And again, if you guys want to sign for Patreon, $20 a month gives you access to that. And Kevin is around in Discord on Saturday answering a bunch of questions, so he will be giving out some more insight on McKinney. If he does some more research a little bit later on. But moving on, we have Panicky Kianzad versus Alexis Davis. Alexis Davis was my punt last time she was on the card, man. I think she's punt again. She is still a sneaky good fighter and was a title contender at one point for a reason. I know we all know she had the worst title fight in probably ever, in my opinion. She got head and armed by Ronda Rousey, and which just is like, okay, like I'm sorry, this isn't JV wrestling, but and then she got finished in 16 seconds. So that was pretty bad. But other than that, I think she's a pretty good fighter. That's why I took her last time. She was a super cheap punt, man. She got 3 takedowns and 130 total strikes. So she was set. What'd she score last time? Do you have that? Kianzad?
Nope. Davis.
The other one. Okay. Davis scored 69.5. Nice.
She got 69.5.
Hold on. I'm reading the correct fight, correct?
You might be right.
Who did they fight? It was Sabrina, right?
Yeah.
69.5. Yep.
Okay. I hate MMA scoring. That's dumb. 100. I mean, she was a punt, so that's whatever. But I mean, 130 total strikes and 3 takedowns. Disagree. That's about the most you can do for the least amount of scoring, I guess. I mean, I know that only 40 were SIG, I guess, but that's still frustrating. But whatever. I mean, she can win again. There's a reason I don't have her as my GPP, like, killer. But I mean, I'll still throw her in my punt list, but just because, again, I think she can win, and all you need is her.
She's always scored decent, even in losses, so that's something noteworthy too. So
yeah, she's a good fighter. She's a good little fighter, and I think Penny should be close to red in GPPs, Matt, honestly. I think Kianzad should, I mean, gun to my head, I'm going to still take the favorite here, minus 200 favorite. I think she should win. But she's going to need a finish. You're going to need to finish this slate, and I can almost guarantee, all 6 of the optimals will be finishes. Maybe one won't be, and it'll just be a really high-octane fight. And B, I will bet the house that Kianzad doesn't finish.
Right.
I will bet the house. She hasn't had a finish, Matt.
It looks like I can see from the scoring anyway.
Dude, she hasn't finished it since 2014.
No.
That's 7 years.
That is crazy.
So Davis will make my love list just being a gamer at that price. She still might not score amazing, even in a win. Just talked about, Matt. But she's going to be a love lister.
Yeah, then, both ownerships are low on this, by the way, too. So, I mean, I would say leverage, but the scoring, like everything you just talked about, is kind of keeping me away from that.
Let me unlove list. I'm going to unlove list Davis. I'm just going to keep her green, and I feel good about that.
Okay.
Davis will. I'm just making a little amendment here to the document.
You're good. Gives me a chance to take a sip of my Red Bull.
Okay. Yeah, just because like I still can't believe I still can't believe she scored that low with that kind of volume last time. She must have not like rode or two. I mean, when was the fight, Matt? That was not too long ago. February.
Let me see.
Yeah, that was February. I got it.
February 27th. Yep.
Yeah, so that should be the new scoring too. I was wondering if there's no ground time or they scored for you. That's the thing. If you look for anything sub there before January, you got to remember that there wasn't a new score. So
I wish they would say that in our notes too. But like, scoring's all over the place with some of these people.
I remember there was someone we looked at, one of the girl fighters, I think, and you were like, "Yeah, she scored 87 last fight," and I was like, "Bullshit!" And you're like, "Told me the date," and I was like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense," because she had like 200 like regular strikes, like total strikes. And I was like, "Oh my god!" But
and that would break the slate.
Yep. But moving on, we got Mofsar, Evlo, Hakeem Dawodu. This one off the rip, Matt, has a plus 175 finish chance, and I couldn't agree more. Both these guys are must-sleep TV. They have 8 of their 9 combined UFC wins coming by way of decision. Hakeem
must-sleep. Okay.
Must-sleep, not must-see, must-sleep TV. Hakeem has a pretty slow pace as a striker, has been pretty, lucky as well. He's had 3 of his 4 decisions in the UFC be by way of split decision, which is pretty freaking crazy. One might have been a contender series, but yeah, 3 have been split decisions. So, God's looking out for him. Mofsar also coming off a pretty unimpressive split decision over Nick Lentz, though I do think that was kind of BS, and he, smoked him more so than, split decision would, entail. I honestly, Matt, I'm going to go hard body in this one. I'll double red it. I'm going to double red like this one. These guys carry such a terrible pace and they're very good fighters. That's the thing. They're good fighters. I like both of them, but it's a good fighters that carry a low pace, and it's just a terrible mix because, like, I think it's going to be a tactical war. It's going to be a, slow technical fight where they pick and choose their shots on their feet. And I'm going to take a hard stance here. It's a 14-fight slate, and I'm going to red them both, especially Mofsar, as there's way, way, way better pay-up options in there.
It looks like it. Right now, they're giving a 70% win percentage on Evolev. Is that announcing it right? Yep. Okay.
I say it different every single time.
Okay.
I've heard it.
I was about to say, because I heard like 3 different pronunciations. I was just like, okay, what do I do?
John Anik says it different. Joe Rogan says it different. Dana White doesn't know how to speak. And I'm like, dude.
Okay. Well, his name. 70% win percentage. Dawodu is 30%, obviously, and the ownership is actually pretty high on Evolev. 28.5% ownership, which is the last spot for cash, which means he looks to be over-owned, in your opinion. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I think he's a good winner, Matt. I really do. It's just, and he did pretty good in his fight against Nick Lentz in terms of what did he score? His volume was okay, but and that was in January, so that was the new scoring. But like, I'm assuming he scored like 90 something or something.
81. 81.
Okay, so there you go. That is not going to get the job done.
That's not.
And to be honest, that was like a pretty high, that's a higher pace than he usually
I was about to say, because his other higher scoring matches, fights
We'll say fights. We'll go with fights and just
fights.
I'll
85.5 and 83, Kevin. So
that's him. He's a good winner. He's a great winner. He's 14
pretty consistent.
He's a great winner, but doesn't always mean a great score. I told you he's a good fighter. I have no issues saying he's a good fighter. He's
right.
Could be the next
just not for DFS anyway.
Not for DFS.
All right.
But that being said, what do we got next here? Moving on, we have
Calderwood.
Lauren Murphy versus Calderwood. Yeah, I like Calderwood here, Matt. I love listed her last time and paid off big time. I'll greenlight her this time. I don't expect her to finish, but she carries a pretty damn good pace to her and is a better striker than the high majority of fighters in this weight class. Lauren Murphy makes a good dance partner and is a striker as well. I think this one stays on their feet. And I'll mark Lauren Murphy yellow. I think she can win at that price, and it's not a bad pick. She just doesn't carry the same volume as Calderwood. And Joanne is actually coming in as a minus 140 favorite at 8.2K, Matt. That's pretty good.
That's very good.
It might have changed. What's it say for you right now?
Minus 146. Hasn't really changed.
Oh, so it's moved up a little bit. Even. Good. Yes, that's pretty good. That's good value. What's the ownership here, Matt? Because this is actually the only split pricing on the card, I believe, at 8 and 8.2. And it's a plus 225 finish chance. I don't expect to finish, but Calderwood has a pretty damn good.
I was gonna say because she scored 109 last fight versus and that was finished, right?
8,400 then, something like that.
Yeah, she was 84. Yep.
Yeah, I took her against. I remember that she was. I took her in a GP.
I remember watching that as well.
Dude, she's a beast. She's like low-key a beast. I like her.
Yeah, $8,200 for her at 27.9% ownership. So it's actually higher than I thought it would be for an 8,200, a split decision kind of salary. For Murphy, $8,000 at 17.1. So I would say leverage potential, but again, in terms of scoring, she never usually scores that well.
Yeah, she doesn't, and that's why I'm like kind of not. I think she can win, and it is going to be a stand-up affair when two people are banging heads for 3 minutes and 3 rounds and just swinging. You never know what's going to happen. But again, just history tends to repeat itself, and she is not typically a good scorer. So take that as you will.
All right.
Moving on, we have Eric Anders versus Darren Stewart. This fight, Matt, I remember I was not super hype about last time. Honestly, I'll be transparent. Was not super hype about it. Don't like either. I think they have power, but they're not like, they're super middle of the road fighters. But especially Darren Stewart. Anders is probably a little bit better. But this fight happened in March, Matt, and was actually becoming a low-key banger. I remember being like, shit, bro, like I probably slept on this fight a little bit. I mean, it's two hard-hitting idiots, so I mean, you never know. You know what I mean? I don't think these guys are the best fighters in the world, but it was a banger. And I'll say Eric Anders, I'm not a huge fan of his. He looked great. He landed an illegal knee that stopped the fight, unfortunately. But I will say Anders was fucking him up bad before the fight was stopped at a ridiculous pace. He had almost 56 strikes and 3 takedowns and a knockdown in the first round, Matt. So, I mean, again, what did I just say? History tends to repeat itself in the sport. And for that reason, I'm going to love Liz Anders. I think that, he clearly had Stewart's number then. If he has it again this time, I almost want him to not finish him. That was a crazy pace. Does it have Eric Anders' score right there, Matt?
I was just looking for it against Stewart, correct?
Yes.
It does not. I can't find it. How long ago was that?
March.
Really?
So 3 months.
What?
Yeah.
Really? And it doesn't have it. Hold on. Let me check Stewart.
Well, it was a no contest.
Oh.
I don't know if that has something to do with it.
I think it does because neither one of them are showing.
Well, either way,
I mean, yeah, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, you can do the math. It's that's absolutely bananas. I mean, that pace is great. So I'm gonna take. I mean, I'm probably not gonna look Stewart's way too much. I mean, it's hard to get that image of him getting the absolute shit beat out of him that bad in round 1 out of my head. So I think Anders definitely is probably gonna be a love lister, and I'll leave Stewart at yellow. It's a minus 120 finish chance. I think he has the power to knock out anybody, and he could be a sneaky pick. And what I'm guessing he's gonna have low ownership.
They both do actually. 22.8 on Anders, on Stewart 12. So very criminally low, I'm assuming.
Maybe just hit the friggin' hell out of this fight.
Right.
Honestly, I would hit the hell out of it either way. Stewart, could catch him, and there might be some big leverage as people are like thinking, like I'm thinking, like Eric banged on him the first time, and this is, but
you weird Eric emo kids out there like me, yeah, hammer Stewart. Yeah.
Be Matt, be a weird sad boy in the corner. Definitely. And
then
definitely
take down $10,000. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This is true, and then everyone will want to hang out with you. Yeah. Is that why you do this, Matt? Was this your ploy to get friends?
Yes.
Is this really your secret? Okay.
I'm trying.
I respect
Still
it. But moving on, we got Drew Dober versus Brad Riddell. This is a good fight, to be honest. I think both these guys are underrated sleepers, especially the Crimson Chin and Drew Dober. He gets looked over a lot. Have you seen Drew Dober, Matt?
I have not.
He could be one of your distant relatives. Look him up right now.
Dude, you've just been steady roasting me like the past like 2 podcasts. Dober?
I know. Yeah, but no, but this kid makes you look like, dude. Look at this.
I'm
dude.
looking right now. I'm searching. Okay, I wish I looked like him.
Yeah, I was gonna say he looks like handsome Squidward. Like,
Kinda
it's
does.
ridiculous. Dude,
Oh my! What is wrong with him? What's wrong?
Right, bro?
The only resemblance there is the hair, and that's my hair on a good day.
I know. I'm kidding, dude. He has a different level of chin, dude. He's a heavyweight chin. But yeah, it's crazy. But he's a good fighter. He has 9 wins in the UFC. Has some big power. Riddell's no slouch either. 3-0 in the UFC and 10-1 as a pro. That said, I think this is I don't know. Riddell's a very low octane fighter. To be honest, I think this is a very good fight. Another one like we just talked about between Movsar and who was it? Hakeem. But it's just, I think it's gonna be a low pace fight, and Dober can, he can be beaten on the ground. So I would give like Riddell an advantage there, but Riddell doesn't really have a great ground game either. I'm going to mark Riddell as yellow to orangish, and Dober will be green, as you might want to grab some pieces of him just for his power and his price alone. It's not my favorite pick ever, but I see some potential for sure.
This is interesting. I think just in terms of ownership, these both are actually relatively high compared to the rest of the fights that we were looking at. They're still not high, but combined wise, they're relatively high. Riddell at 25.2% ownership, and he is the underdog. Dober at 23.7%. So from an ownership perspective, it looks like a lot of people are taking both sides of these, at least in terms of GPP. And this could be a make or break fight for a lot of people. And you're saying that scoring wise, it's not that great. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I don't think so.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I'm assuming because I see Riddell as a good salary saver at $7,700 with a close percent chance of winning here. 44% chance is what they're giving him. So, I guess as a toss-up, $7,700 is what people are thinking?
Yeah.
I guess.
I guess. I don't know. I'd probably fade pretty hard and then take a little bit of Dober.
You said both yellow?
Dober's green. Riddell's yellowish to orange.
Got it. All right. Interesting.
Moving on. Yeah, we got this next 5. Actually, Matt, I'll hit you with fun. I got 2 for you. Ready?
Okay.
One's a sports related one, and but it's it's actually pretty funny, especially as we have some Cleveland Browns fans. This is true though. This is a true story, and I've heard this joke before, but this is actually something that happened. A lifetime and lifelong Cleveland Browns fan who had season tickets, his whole season ticket holder, had been to every game. He requested for his obituary, and they actually put this in his obituary, that he wanted 6 Cleveland Browns pallbearers at his funeral. And the reasoning for that is so the Browns can let him down one last time.
That actually happened.
Yeah, that actually happened. The other one, this one blows my mind, and this is just the idiocracy of people. James Franco made a piece of art one time that was quote unquote non-visible. And the artwork was billed as an endless tank of oxygen. And it was essentially just invisible in air, and someone paid 10 grand for it. So they paid 10 grand for nothing. And it was quote unquote invisible artwork.
Sounds like NBA Top Shot.
Yeah, that makes more sense to me than friggin' buying air, but
right.
Who am I to judge?
Oh, that's what?
Yeah, so
just because it was labeled by Franco, I'm assuming that's the only reason.
Yeah, probably. I don't know what Matt. There's a lot of dumb things in this world. I don't know.
I'd rather buy something physical from Franco for $10,000.
Yeah,
I wouldn't pay $10,000 for that, regardless. But hey, whatever. That's what rich people do.
The only thing dumber than that is being a season ticket holder for the Cleveland Browns. Anyway, so
or Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah, go ahead.
Or the Jaguars, yes. Moving on, we have Paul Craig versus Jamal Hill. So this is the start of that pricing, Matt, where it just gets absurd. The next 5 fights all have 9K plus pricing fighters in them. So be ready for that. I hate this pricing of Hill. I got to throw him in the love list, though, because he does have big power and is coming off a finish of a tough OSP, where he was dominant the whole fight. I also like the pace and style of Hill's striking. I think that he could be a serious problem in that division. It also helps that Paul Craig has a very suspect chin and can for sure be knocked out. That said, Matt, I'm going to throw a couple sleeper spots at Paul Craig. I think he is a motherfucker on the ground, and I don't care if Jamal Hill is 8-0. Craig can catch anyone. He is the heavy underdog for a reason.
Right.
Don't overexpose on him, but both are making my love list for good reason. I think this should end up finish. The minus 300 chance obviously reflects that, but it makes sense to me. I think Jamal Hill knocks him out or Craig subs him. That's pretty cut and dry.
I think this is the first finish chance with price tag with ownership that makes sense to me. Hill should get it done and should score pretty well. I think we can both agree. Should win, but like you said, he only has a 75% chance, so there's still a 40% chance or 25% chance that he wins or loses rather. Right now, in terms of ownership, he is cash viable 32.5, which is up in that range. He's 5th highest on the card. Paul Craig, though, no ownership whatsoever, which you can imagine leverage potential 12.1% owned.
It's a mistake.
That will break the slate, obviously.
Yeah, and he could absolutely get knocked out, and I expect him to more likely than not. But don't be dumb. Take a couple pieces of Craig because there's a lot of people, again, who maybe they have a chance to win, and if they do, maybe they score okay. He has a real chance to win, and if he does, I bet you $1 trillion it's by sub.
Right.
And he has a really good ground game, really good.
And again, minus 306. There's nothing spectacular about that win chance. There's nothing in terms of Vegas.
100%. So definitely take that. Take that into consideration. So,
right.
Moving on, we have Damian Mai versus Bilal Muhammad. I'm going to take a hard stance and red light Bilal Muhammad here. He has had fights where his pace is adequate for a 9K price range, but on this slate, I really think you need a finish at that price. I
agree.
That said, he cannot finish at all. He's a trash finisher, and Damian Mai is borderline unfinishable. I know he got finished last fight when that was Gilbert Burns, but that was the first time in over a decade that he got finished, and Gilbert Burns.
I was about to say, and he's not bad.
No, he hits like my dad when I leave the fridge open. Like it's ridiculous.
That was so quick.
Yeah, I'm pretty handsome.
Flashbacks.
I don't know what you want for. Yeah, I was gonna say, or it was just repressed. But I think Mai will be green for me. I'm a fanboy. Everyone knows that I love Damian Mai, so I'll save him from the love list. I don't want to let my bias, take hold here, but I do think Mai is really great on the ground. Obviously, I still think he's probably the best grappler in MMA history. That's my opinion. And his last 4 losses, Matt, yeah, he's had a lot of career losses lately, but it's stupid too. They've been to literally 3 UFC welterweight champions and then Gilbert Burns. I think it was to Burns, Covington. I can't remember. It was three champions and Burns, maybe Woodley too. It was ridiculous. He's amazing. So, and that was his losses all in the last 7 years. Those are all his losses, essentially 4 champion level fighters. So I think Mai is still great. And in my opinion, quite, like I said, possibly the best grappler to ever do it. So I would take some stabs at Mai just for win potential. I can't promise he'll score well, but his grappling is elite. So he could always catch a sub.
Right. Ownership's relatively low on both these guys. Muhammad, 20.1 for all the reasons you just said. Maya, 18.5% ownership.
Okay. I like that Maya's. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say I like it, but it makes more sense to me that he's near even ownership. So
yeah,
but right. I mean, again, I probably wouldn't overexpose on this fight at all.
Yeah, I think the public agrees with you there.
Yeah, be careful. Moving on, we have Leon Edwards versus Nate Diaz, Matt. So I'll start by saying all 3 of these next fights are 5-rounders, and I promise you, I'm making some cash lineups that are all 3 fights just for the fuck of it. I just want to see what happens again.
You love doing that.
I love it. I think it's one of the funnest, coolest things you can do. I don't know why. I get off on it. I'll see what happens. But anyway, Leon Edwards is back at it after a brief return to the cage in March. That was cut short with an eye poke that rendered the previously mentioned Bilal Muhammad unable to continue. Before that, Leon Edwards was on a 5-year win streak, beating big names like RDA and Vicente Luque. Pretty impressive. His loss before that was also to Usman, so that doesn't mean too much. Leon Edwards is one of these guys. He's good, man. He's real good. I don't know how good. He's on the cusp of elite. I mean, let me put it this way. I think Vicente Luque is elite. I said that. I go, if he beats Woodley, he's now elite for me. And I think Edwards is there too. He's probably close. I think he should be the favorite, but my goodness, I think they're kind of sleeping on Nate a little bit. I'm almost surprised, especially with all the clout Nate has and, all the stuff that, Nate's done in his life and his career in the UFC. I mean, I think Nate is one of those guys. His personality and his fight style and all that crap and the antics carry him a little bit where he's not probably quite as good as his fame level. You know what I mean? He's a very big casual fan favorite. And I like Nate Diaz and he's very good, but he's a bevy of losses in his career, some of which to, not the best fighters in the world. So I think Nate Diaz is a good fighter. I'll put him at very good. And he did beat Conor McGregor and, legitimately beat him. And I think Conor's a very good fighter. So I think I'll put him as a very good fighter, but he's never been what I would consider elite. Can he win? I think he can. I don't know how necessarily. That's the thing. It's like, do I think he's got great jiu-jitsu? Does he sub Leon Edwards? I don't think so. Does he beat Leon Edwards on his feet? Nate has great boxing. Leon's more dynamic. I don't know. It's interesting. It's a 5-rounder, and I think it could go the distance. I'm going to mark Edwards green, though, as it is a rounder, and I'd be stupid not to. Leon doesn't have a great pace. We've seen him score pretty averagely in 5-round fights before, but it is a 5-rounder. But he is the most expensive guy on the slate, too, Matt. So I don't know. This is an interesting one. It's kind of a perplexing one for me.
Second highest ownership on the board here with Edwards, 36.7% ownership. I think for all the reasons that you just stated, he is the most expensive, so you know where people are going to try to pay up for. All the casuals are going to look right up there. Nate Diaz, 7.4% ownership. I do believe that's the lowest it is on the card.
What is it?
7.4.
Yeah, no one's really giving him a chance. And I'm not saying I guess he's, I don't know, man. Nate Diaz is so perplexing as a whole. I mean, you never know which one you're going to get. He could come out and look friggin' lights out. You know what I mean? And I get he's older and he's kind of probably, I won't say on his way out the door, but he's probably thinking retirement's in his mind somewhere.
Right.
And Edwards is tough, but I don't know, Matt. It's interesting. You might just want to take some lean back and see. Like I said, he should win. He's very calculated. He's a fresh fighter. Really making his run right now. So I definitely think I want obviously a lot more Edwards.
Yeah, you don't want to be the guy that fades any one of these 3-rounders, both sides, because if you fade, if you take a lot of Leon Edwards and Nate Diaz wins, you're not going to take down the GP. It's just period. So you need to have exposure. I think 100% exposure to all these guys and all 3 of these 5-rounders. That's just my opinion because again, if 5-rounders, sorry, did I say 3? Yeah,
you keep saying 3, but I know you 3 5-rounders.
I'm sorry, guys. But Nate Diaz, yeah, I mean, at his price tag, Kevin, $6,700. I don't care, what he does. If he wins in 5 rounds, he's going to slam value. That's just how it goes.
No, it's true. Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. And it's tough, Matt, because usually a lot of these dudes, in the 5-rounders, and it's a heavy line. You know what I mean? It's like, oh well, one person's definitely going to win. Usually, you'll see at 95, will be like friggin' Amanda Nunes or Shevchenko, and you're like, cool, don't have to touch the other girl in this fight. This is not one of those scenarios. Unfortunately, this is just not that kind of slate. I mean, I think, to be honest, every underdog is super friggin' live in these ones.
Right.
So, and I'll get to that basically right now. So we talked about that one. Moving on, we got Davison Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno. Another fight is just like, what the hell do you do with this one?
Right.
I think it's pretty easy. I think it's simple. You hammer this is my take, Matt. You go 100% ownership here.
Okay.
This fight, 100% take. Super obvious love lister for both sides and for good reason. Their last fight, Matt, was absolutely banana sandwiches. It was crazy. Absolutely crazy. I stacked in cash and was a very happy boy for doing so. They both had at least 2 takedowns, but more importantly, they both cleared 136 strikes. It was a friggin' bloodbath. It was a war. Ended in a draw. In my opinion, just eye test Moreno won. But beat him, to beat the champ, Matt, this is one of those things. It's, I don't love it, but it's how it's always been since the beginning of boxing. And it transferred right over to MMA when MMA began, where you have to delete the champ to beat the champ. You got to really bury the champ. You know what I mean? If it's close, they're going to give the benefit of the doubt to the belt holder. It's just always it's an unwritten rule in all fighting. And I don't necessarily disagree with, I don't know how I feel about it. It's just almost like it is the way it is. And Moreno probably slightly beat him, but it reminds me like Johnny Hendricks versus GSP, where he slightly probably beat him, or Dominic Reyes versus or Gustafsson versus Jones, any of those fights where it was like very close, but you got to give the benefit to the champ.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like my stance on it would be, if you're better, period. That's just,
I don't disagree.
Because, to kind of relate this to like another sport, NBA last night, Brooklyn Nets are up 2-0 in the series. In both games, they absolutely smoked the Bucks. Like, it's been like 30 points or more. Last game, the Bucks came back and they won by 4 points, and it was the ugliest game I've ever seen in my entire life. But the win is a win at the end of the day. That's why they keep score. It's just so hard to do in MMA because obviously a lot of it's up for interpretation, as you know.
Stupid, but you're right, Matt. You're right, and I think it's just Just I think I've just been abused by MMA and the UFC so long. I'm just used to, this is my conditioned response. I'm like, no, it's
Right.
okay that this is the way it is. But you're
No,
right,
it's
it's not.
okay.
It's okay. It's not. It's definitely not that it's okay. You're right. If you win, you win.
Right.
And that's the way it should be. But this is just kind of, again, old hat. This is what we're used to. But that being said, I don't know, Matt. I mean, Moreno stood toe-to-toe for 5 rounds and debatably beat Fig and is still 2K less than him. That makes Moreno very appealing, obviously. So I get the Moreno side. Very surprised, actually. Like, that's really weird that, like, he's 2K less and a minus 230 for Fig to the plus 185 for Brandon Moreno, where it was a dead even. Go look at the stat line, Matt. Here, I'll bring it up real quick.
I'm looking at it. Everybody can see on my screen.
Okay, cool. So you see the fact it was like the SIG strikes.
Right.
Dude, they were 5 SIG strikes off of each other, 8 total strikes, and Brandon Moreno had 2 more takedowns. That was a battle, bro.
It looks
Battle.
like
Super close fight. And to be honest, I had, Fig in my GPP lines, and I was like, dude, like, I don't know. It was I just
Fig scored less, so
like, I know Moreno's tough. I know he has good boxing. I've always liked Moreno, but I just thought Fig was just kind of like watching what he did to Benavidez and watching what he did to who did he fight for? Was it Munoz? Alex Munoz? Is that right? Do you have Fig's track record there? No,
against Munoz.
Perez.
Yep, you're right.
Yep. He just I was just like, dude, that dude's on another level. Moreno's tough, man. So I get the Moreno side, but that being said, might have been the best performance of his life. Who knows if he can ever have a performance like that again? He's still going to be battling the judges versus the current champ, as we just talked about. That still exists, Matt. You know what I mean? So say he has another close fight, that could happen again. And Figueiredo has a lot of time to make adjustments. Not that he didn't adjust to Figueiredo too, but I think Davison might have been going in a little and I think he had a tough cut. There were some other things too. He was COVID. I remember something led me to believe that his gas tank wasn't quite where it should be for that. And I don't know, that he'll be more prepared this time. And in my opinion, he's still probably the best flyweight in the world right now. So both sides are live. Grab a piece, please.
All right, and I think this is the first head scratcher in terms of ownership that I've seen through the entire card. We've had a lot of head scratchers, but this is the biggest one. Yeah. $9,100 again for Figueiredo. You got to keep that in mind. Moreno, $7,100. To me, those price tags are both very low relative to the ownership that they show. 32.1% for Figueiredo. Moreno's at 18.8.
Jeez.
So I think this provides the highest leverage potential of them all. And I think, Kevin, it's because they both didn't score that great. Again, because Figueiredo ended up getting the win. In terms of DK scoring, he only scored 78.5. Moreno scored 86, but combined score-wise...
People are looking at that?
Yeah. I think people are looking at that. That's what I think.
Their cheese fell off the cracker. They're fucking idiots. If you're looking at the scoring, if people are actually looking at the scoring, and because it was a draw, there's no win, but okay, add 30 to either side of that. Was it a good score now? Yes. Like, dude.
Exactly.
So that's really what's happening.
They're missing out. And not only that, combined score-wise, it's crazy. And then you add on top of the win bonus that wasn't there. I think that's what's happening here, honestly.
Again, and what percent of fights end in a draw? It won't happen again. That's a great stat. I'd love to find that out.
Yeah.
I would assume it's less than 5%.
Yeah.
I would assume it's
less than 5% chance that these guys are going to draw again. So think of it that way.
Maybe I'll do my little nerd thing, go through all the fights of the past 5 years and see. Like, I love that stuff. I love doing that stupid shit, like I did with the women's to men's fights. Finish percentage.
That's because UFC's new, and there's a whole bunch of new stats you guys need to find out.
Yep. So that'd be great to find out. But yeah, moving on, we got the main event: Israel Adesanya versus Marvin Vettori. Do you watch the pre-fight presser?
I didn't.
Like the pre-fight press conference. Pretty funny. Marvin Vettori got friggin' heated. He was just like ready to rip his head. He's screaming. He was pissed. I don't know.
I need to go back and watch this.
Riled up. Yeah, it was fun. I got to watch the weigh-ins. I haven't watched the square off yet either. I love that stuff. But yet this is another rematch, Matt. Not a lot of people know this. A lot of people don't know that Marvin Vettori and Adesanya fought, and it was Adesanya's toughest fight at middleweight. Very close.
It looks like it. He scored horribly.
Who, Adesanya?
Yeah.
Yeah, go look at the stat line. I mean, Marvin Vettori took him down. It was very interesting.
Yeah.
But Vettori definitely beat him on the ground, and they have gotten much better since then. But I do think Vettori has actually grown the most. It's a super live fight. I still don't know if that's enough to beat Izzy. Izzy's had a lot of champion experience now. It's different. He's also had a lot of 5-round fight experience, which, that's where he shines.
Huge.
Yep, 100%. And he's got that mentality, champion's mentality. So this is different, but we will find out Saturday. And Vettori doesn't seem scared of him. And Vettori knows he's the one who found chinks in his armor. You know what I mean? So I think it is going to be tough. I mean, Vettori definitely has better wrestling and grappling. We know that. We also saw Izzy struggle in that department against, in his light heavyweight fight against Jan in March. Yes, that was against a true 205er and a super stud, but Vettori is a big dude and a stud as well and has good grappling. And we, saw how tough he is in a 5-rounder against, was it Jack Hermanson, I believe. My bottom line is I think both these guys are excellent fighters, but both are beatable. And I've always said this, Matt. I think Israel's amazing, but I said this long before the Blachowicz fight. He's beatable. He is beatable. There's holes in his game. You know what I mean? And everyone has holes in their game. But, there's ones to me that Izzy, I've seen his wrestling defense has gotten so much better, but there's still holes in it. He's an amazing striker, but if you watch his earlier fights, I've been on him for a long time. I told you, he's probably my favorite non-wrestler. You know what I mean? I'm a wrestler bias, but he's my favorite pure striker in MMA right now. That said, he has holes in his game. And even I used to watch him in his kickboxing days. He got slept a couple times kickboxing. He lost fights in kickboxing. I mean, there's holes in his game. He's not the second coming of Christ here. I don't think he's unbeatable. I think he's very elite, and I do expect him to win still, but he is a tough puzzle to solve, especially on his feet. But Vettori's tough, man. And the thing about Vettori is he believes he can win. He knew Israel at first time he fought, and he was like, he went right at him. And I think he's gotten only better. So I'm going to love list both sides again, Matt. And it might be a good pairing with the co-main in terms of pay up options, one up, one down. You take an Israel and you take a Moreno, you take a Vettori and you take a Fig. I would probably go 100% on both of these fights, and then just dance around them. Just pick both the pay ups, both the pay downs, one of the pay ups, one of the pay downs. And I'll say this, Matt, as stackable for cash, I think it is. I don't know which one's more stackable between this and the co-main. This one has a better chance to go the distance on paper or according to Vegas. But I will say, I mean, we saw how well Fig and Moreno did as dance partners the first fight. So
they both are fantastic fights to target. I will say one thing, Kevin. I'm mind blown right now, and I'll tell you why. Because Adesanya fought at the next highest weight class, correct? To fight fight Jan.
Light heavy, yeah. He got bunnied, bro.
I completely, no, I agree. I completely thought that was a heavyweight class that he was at. I had no idea this dude was 185, and the reason why I'm mind blown right now is because I'm 185, and now I'm terrified for my life. What is happening? If that guy's 185 and I'm 185, I question life just seeing him. He looks like an alien.
Israel Adesanya?
Yeah.
Why do you think he's that big?
I think he, looking at him, he looks that big, yes. But
I mean,
obviously he's ripped out of his mind.
Yeah,
there's no denying that.
That's the thing. He's a very skinny fighter.
Yeah.
I don't think he carries around a ton of muscle, but he is 6'4", 6'5" at 185, which is huge, and that's a big.
Right, I factored all that in, and I completely thought that he was just naturally just a huge human. I thought he was close to heavyweight. No, he's literally my size.
Yeah. No, he's.
I'm so thrown off right now. I just realized this. So again, guys, I'm a casual. Obviously, I don't know any of this, but the fact that
you're a tall boy.
I'm 6'2".
6'2". Yeah, so you're right there. He's probably 6'3", 6'4", something like that. Maybe not 6'.
So you're saying I have a chance?
So I mean, just keep your chin down. You know what I mean? Slip those punches. Look to level change takedown.
I am the Crimson Chin. All right. Ownership wise, Adesanya is the highest on the slate. No surprise there. 43.3%. Kevin. Vettori 26.9. So also relatively high. I think all that's pretty obvious though. At that price tag, you have to take both sides. This really isn't out of the realm of impossibility that he could win this thing. And I think it's pretty straightforward from that perspective. I think you need to have Adesanya in cash, no questions asked. Stacking is definitely not out of the question. Like you said, could go back to stack these last two fights in cash, and then take the ownership wherever it is for the rest of the slate.
Yeah, 100%. And again, I think he should still win, but Marvin Vettori, he just gets better every time I see him. That kid's grown a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It'll be a good one. And he's just had, again, Marvin Vettori just had 2 5-round fights. You know what I mean? He's tuned up, ready to go. So I just want to see what did he score against Holland? I actually didn't see that. Nothing to matter. It really doesn't mean jack to me, but he had 11 takedowns against Kevin Holland. Jeez. That's absurd. Oh, poor Kevin Holland. You can come to my wrestling club for free because what was the fight before that too? Was it Derek Brunson who put just for my? I want to see how many times Kevin Holland's been taken down in his last 2 fights.
Kevin Holland has
6. So
yeah,
he's been taken down 17 times in 2 fights, bro. Bring a wrestling coach. My goodness. Oh my god. But yeah. Anyway, so we'll wrap this up. It's a long video.
I just realized we're going over an hour now. These videos are getting longer and longer just because Kevin's finally enjoying after COVID talking about MMA because he's been wanting to do this for a long time, guys. And 14 fights. Oh.
Yeah, it's 14 fights and it's a paid card and a paid, pay-per-view event. It's a good one. It's a good one. So,
and plus you're giving out fun facts every single time now, so
fun facts, that'll do it too. But yeah, we'll piss through this last part. Core plays fights. Israel, I'm assuming he will be the heaviest owned on the card I wrote. And he is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What was it again?
43.4.
43. So wrote that. GPP plays. I like Eric Anders deleting Stewart the first time they fought before the illegal knee was setting a crazy pace for scoring as well. Hill, not a bad pick for a crazy pay up option, and Craig can be starched. Fig, amazing fighter, can always finish and carries great pace. Punts, I like Craig, as I said, grappling skills to catch anyone. Moreno, again, quite possibly won his last fight with Fig and is still a heavy underdog. And Vittori, who has a real chance, is a great fighter and looked awesome in his first fight with Israel. And I'll say, Matt, I'm noticing countered, and this doesn't usually happen, but every punt is countered with a GPP or core love lister. So I really like the punts and the pay-ups. I like the fights. You know what I mean? It's not just the fighters, which doesn't always happen. And you can, it just kind of makes it obvious, like target the shit out of the fights I like.
Right.
That's what I'm going to do. You know what I mean? Except for like Eric Anders, that's one I'm more like heavy on one side and maybe, a couple others. Yeah.
All right. That's it, guys. That will wrap up our video. Hopefully you did enjoy this video. If you did, please do hit that subscription button, notification bell, and of course, smash that like button for all of our future MMA content. With all that being said, have a great rest of your day. Let's cash.